Hello friends, today we will discuss the introduction about goods and service tax. Let us start with discussion. First we will understand the meaning of tax. What is tax? Tax is not a voluntary payment. Tax is not a donation. It is an enforced contribution as per the law. So tax is nothing but money that people must have to pay to the government, which will be used for the purpose of providing certain public services by government. So, what is the meaning of tax? Tax is nothing but a pecuniary burden imposed by government on the common people or the property owners or individual at extra. Next one is the type of taxes. So there are two type of taxes, direct tax and an indirect tax. So what is the meaning of direct tax? Under the direct tax, the person paying the tax to the government directly bears the incidence of the tax. So under direct tax, same for example, income tax is a direct tax. So under income tax, the person who is paying the income tax is bearing the income tax. So he is not passing on the burden of income tax to another person. So income tax is a progressive in nature. Direct tax is a progressive in nature because the high rate of a taxes for the people having a higher ability to pay. So if you have a higher income, you have to pay high income tax. If you have a lower income, you have to pay low income tax. So direct tax is a progressive in nature. What is the meaning of an indirect tax? Under the indirect tax, the government is collecting the indirect tax on the person, but such person is passing on such tax, or same for example the burden of such tax to the ultimate customer. So under the indirect tax, the person is passing the tax burden to the another person until it is borne by the ultimate customer. Same for example, ABC Limited is selling the product to its a distributor ABN company and he is charging indirect tax. Now ABN company is passing on such indirect tax to ultimate customer while selling such product. So this is the indirect tax. The indirect tax is a regressive in nature. So all the customer equally bear the burden of tax irrespective of their ability to pay. So here GST is an indirect tax. Indirect tax is a regressive in nature. Direct tax is a progressive in nature. So this is the direct tax. Under direct tax, burden is on the person to whom the tax is charged. However, under the indirect tax, burden is passing on. So here the tax is shifted from one person to another person under the indirect tax. So what are the direct taxes in India? Major direct tax in India is income tax. And what are the indirect tax? GST and a custom duty are the indirect tax in India. Now, before discussing anything about the GST, we will discuss the features about indirect taxes. Why the indirect taxes are introduced by Government of India. So indirect taxes are the major source of revenue for the government. Almost 50% of total revenue of a government are from the indirect taxes. Further, such tax are levied on a commodity of a services. So as and when the consumption of a product or a service is made, the government is earning the tax revenue from such indirect tax. The indirect tax is in the nature of a shifting the burden until it is borne by the ultimate consumer. This is we have previously discussed while discussing the difference between direct tax and indirect tax. Next one is the no perception of a direct fee. Generally, when you are buying any product or services, the MRP of such product will include the tax amount, that is the indirect tax or a GST amount. So the layman doesn't know when he is paying for the purpose of purchasing that product, he doesn't know that he is also paying something from that amount to the government, that is he is paying the taxes to the government while purchasing such goods. So this is the consideration of no perception of a direct fee, that is, the person does not perceive the direct fee while paying the indirect tax. Next one is what happen on inflation. So as and when the rate of indirect tax will increase, inflation will increase. As and when the rate of indirect tax is reduced, inflation is reduced, because it will affect the price of a commodity and a services. Next one is the wider tax base. As indirect tax is levied on a product and a service which are consumed by the people of the country. So there are a wider tax base for the purpose of indirect tax for government. Now next one is the regarding promote social welfare. Certain products are harmful to the society, such as sin goods, tobacco, alcohol, etc. So government may charge higher rate of tax of GST or another indirect taxes on such product, and he can check whether how much rate of a consumption is made for each state or a country for such harmful product. And further, by charging higher rate of a tax, it will create a low consumption for such harmful product, and also as and when the consumption is made, it will also increasing the revenue of the government. Next one is the regressive in nature. We have already discussed that rich and poor both have to pay same rate of indirect taxes. So it will not differentiate whether you are rich or a poor, you have to pay indirect taxes. Next one is the how is the GST journey in our country. So in the year 2000, remember friends, GST is introduced in 2017. However, the journey is started from the year 2000. So in the year 2000, the erstwhile Prime Minister had introduced the concept of a GST, and he had made committee to design the GST model. In the year 2000, the Prime Minister had set up the committee for the purpose of designing the GST law. Next one is the after 6 years, the erstwhile financial year, in his budget speech of 2006-7, he gets confirmed that GST would be launched from 1st April 2010. However, it will be not launched on 1st April 2010. Then, in 2014, the Constitutional Amendment Bill was passed in a Lok Sabha. And in August 2016, after 2 years, introduction of a bill in a Lok Sabha, in August 2016, the Constitutional Amendment Act has been enacted. So as and when the Constitutional Amendment Act is enacted, the President has been given a power to make the GST Council, and the President has made the GST Council. The first meeting of the GST Council has been held in September 2016. In March 2017, the Council recommended that CGST, SGST, IGST, UTGST and a compensation sales bill is required to be passed in a Lok Sabha as well as the Rajya Sabha for the purpose of levying the GST. Next one is in April 2017. This all the act, that is CGST Act, IGST Act, UTGST Act and a compensation act has been passed in the Parliament. In May 2017, the GST Council has recommended the rule, and on 30th June 2017, all the states except Jammu and Kashmir had passed their SGST Act, and on 1st July 2017, the GST has been launched. However, the state Jammu and Kashmir, now Jammu and Kashmir is not the state, however, before 1st July 2017, it is a state. So, on 8 July 2017, the Jammu and Kashmir has also passed the SGST Act, and now the GST is also applicable to Jammu and Kashmir from 8 July 2017. and this way the GST journey continues till now. So, what is the concept of GST? So, what is GST? GST is nothing but a value added tax. So, this is the shifting the burden from one person to another person till it is consumed by the ultimate consumer. Further, the continuous chain of an input tax credit. Same for example, if you have purchased the raw material for the purpose of manufacturing and selling your finished product, so whatever you are paying for your finished product, the taxes, you can get a credit for a raw material purchase tax amount. So there will be a continuous chain of an input tax credit. Next one is the burden will be ultimately borne by the final consumer in GST. Further, as input tax credit is available in a continuous way, so there will be a no cascading effect of tax. What is cascading effect? Cascading effect means the tax on the tax. So as the ITC, that is input tax credit, is available, there will be a no cascading effect of tax. Next one is there may be a question arise why there is a need for a GST in India. For this, you have to understand the erstwhile regime, that is the tax regime continues in India before the introduction of GST. So before introduction of GST, there are several taxes prevailing in India. Say for example, if you are manufacturing the goods, then central government will charge excise duty. If you are providing the services, then central government will charge service tax. Further, if you are selling the particular product in the same state, then the state government will levy the value added tax or a sale tax. If you are selling the product from one state to another state, then central sale tax will be charged. However, in these multiple taxes, some taxes are levied by the central government and some taxes are levied by the state government. So credit of the central tax which you have paid, that is excise and service tax, will not be available against the payment of a VAT that is levied by the state government. So there will be a cascading effect because you have paid already excise and again you are paying the VAT and you are not getting this annual credit for such excise against the payment of a state VAT act. So there will be a cascading effect. So this is the first deficiency in the erstwhile GST pre-GST regime, that continuous chain of credit is not available. Further, there is a one discussion going on what is goods and what is services, because some decisions are always available that particular thing is considered as a goods and particular things are considered as a services. If this is a services, then central government will charge service tax. If it is a good, then state government will charge VAT. However, sometimes the central government will say that it will be considered as a services and they are charging service tax. And sometimes the state government also says this is a goods and it will charge VAT. So there will be a double tax, that central will charge service tax and state will charge VAT. Same for example the work contract. So this is the second deficiency of a pre-GST regime. So to nullify this deficiency, the GST is required to be introduced in our country. Now we will discuss the framework of a GST as introduced in India. So India has adopted a dual GST model. What is dual GST model? That central government and state government both will levy GST on the taxable supply of goods or services for a board. So central as well as the state both will levy the GST on the supply. This is considered as the dual GST model. What are the taxes under GST? So CGST, which is levied by the central government, SGST levied by the state government, UTGST for the purpose of union territory, and IGST is levied on the interstate supply of the good, which is apportioned between central and state as per the recommendation of the GST Council. Next one is the legislative framework of the GST. So, central government has enacted the CGST Act. Every state and union territory which have its own legislator has enacted their SGST Act. And union territory without any legislator has enacted UTGST Act. This UTGST Act is enacted by the Parliament of the India. So these are the acts under the GST regime. That is CGST Act, UTGST Act, SGST Act of each state. Next one is the classification of the goods. Now GST is levied on the supply of goods or services. So how the classification of a goods or services will be made? So for the purpose of classification of a goods, HSN code is required. So harmonized system of a nomenclature is adopted for the purpose of classification of the goods. Next one is the what about the services? So for the purpose of services, the service accounting code, that is the new scheme of a classification of a service, has been devised for the purpose of a classification of a services under the GST regime. Now the government of India has developed the new GST portal, that is www.gst.gov.in. This GSTN portal is the company established under Section 8 of the Companies Act. What is working of a GSTN portal? So GSTN will provide the function relating to the registration of a person in a GST regime. It is useful for the purpose of return filing. It will forwarding the return to the central as well as the state government. It will provide the computation mechanism as well as the settlement of the IGST. It will provide the matching of a tax payment. It will also connect to the banking network for the purpose of a tax payment. It will also providing the MIS report to the government, and it will also provide the analysis of the taxpayers' profiles. Now another portal is e-way bill. If you are supplying the goods which is having the value inclusive of taxes more than 50,000, then you have to prepare the e-way bill along with the invoice. This e-way bill is prepared with the help of this portal. The portal name is www.ewaybillgst.gov.in. So from this portal you can prepare the e-way bill. Now next one is the GSP and ASP. So GSTN had selected the certain chain of GSTN service provider and as well as the ASP for the purpose of interacting with the GST portal. So ASP is nothing but an application service provider, and GSP is the GST Suvidha provider. Compensation says. So if you are comparing the pre-GST regime taxation and the after GST regime taxation, so there are the certain taxes which are having the loss due to introduction of a GST. Same for example Gujarat, Maharashtra, such tax are the manufacturing tax, and they are selling the goods to outside their territory. So GST is a destination based consumption tax. So the state where the product is consumed is getting the revenue of a GST. So the Gujarat, Maharashtra and some other states are getting the loss because of introduction of GST. So to provide the compensation to such state, the GST compensation cess Act 2017 is introduced by the central government. This cess is levied on the demerit good. What are the demerit good? Like the pan masala, tobacco, or further it will also levied on the luxurious goods, say for example motor car, etc. And such compensation cess is used to provide compensation to the state for the purpose of set off their loss of revenue due to implementation of a GST. So understand why the compensation cess Act is passed to provide compensation to for the loss of revenue arising to the some state on account of the implementation of the goods and service tax. Now we will understand what are the taxes that are subsumed in a GST. So before GST there is a central excise duty, additional excise duty, service tax, excise duty under medicinal and toilet preparation act, countervailing duty as well as the special countervailing duty, central sale tax, central surcharges and cesses that are related to the supply of goods and services. These all taxes which are levied by the central government are now not available, and these all taxes are subsumed in the GST. Further, the state government will levy the VAT, state surcharge, etc., entertainment tax, except those are levied by the local body. Further, tax on lottery, betting, gambling, etc., luxury tax, tax on advertisement. These all taxes are now not available, and these are subsumed in GST. Now we will discuss what is the outside of GST. So alcohol for human consumption. This is outside the GST. GST is not levied on alcohol for human consumption. The tax levied power is still remain with the state government for alcohol for human consumption. So GST will not be levied on alcohol for human consumption. Further, the 5 petroleum products on which right now GST is not levied, however the GST Council will decide the date from which GST will be applicable on such products. So what are the 5 petroleum products? Crude oil, diesel, petrol, natural gas and aviation turbine fuel. So on these 5 petroleum products, the GST Council will decide the date from which GST will be applicable on it. Next one is the if any entertainment tax will be levied by the local body, then power to collect tax is always remain with the local body. This tax will not be subsumed in GST. Further, the tobacco. The tobacco is also under the GST. However, the power to levy excise is also retained by the central government on such tobacco. So on tobacco, excise as well as the GST both will be applicable. So central government have power to levy excise on tobacco as well as the GST is also levied on tobacco. Next one is the what are the benefits of the GST. So due to introduction of a GST, there will be a one nation, one tax. So there will be a common market across the India. So all the products have the same price across the India. So it will boost to the Make in India initiative because there will be a common market all over the India. Further, it will enhance the investment opportunity as well as the employment because the continuous chain of input tax credit is available. It will reducing the cascading effect. So it will reduce the overall cost of production. So it will enhance the investment capacity as well as the employment. Further, the ease of doing business. So the complexity of a previous, that is a pre-GST regime will be removed and simple tax GST has been introduced with a very much more simplification and uniformity all over the India. So there will be ease of doing business. Further, there will be a certainty in a tax administration as all over the India. There will be a one nation, one tax and a one uniform GST act. So there will be a certainty in a tax administration. Further, GST is introduced with the use of a greater use of a information system. So there will be a lesser interaction with the tax authority, that is officer as well as the taxpayer, because most of the work will be done on the GSTN common portal via online mode. Further, due to introduction of a GST Act, the continuous chain of input tax strategy is available. It will reduce the overall cost. Further, it will also reduce the compliance cost. Such, for example, the multiple record keeping is required under the Excise Act, under the State VAT Act. Now there will be a one GST Act all over the India. So there will be a lower compliance cost as far as related to the record keeping and extra considered. Further, the GST is introduced with the consideration of a benefit to the agriculture and industry. Under GST, if you are supplying within the state up to 40 lakh rupees per year, then there will be a no requirement of a GST registration. So it will be a very helpful to the small business person that they are not required to take the GST registration. Further, it will reduce the cascading effect. So cascading effect will be removed as a continuous chain of input tax credit is available. As the basic threshold limit is provided for the purpose of GST registration, so the small entrepreneur or a trader is not required to take GST registration until and unless they does not cross the threshold limit. So it will benefit to the small businessman. Now we will discuss the constitutional provision for the purpose of GST. So India has the three-tier federal structure. First one is the union government, second one is the state government, and third one is the local government. The power to levy such tax and a duty is distributed among the three layers of a government as discussed above. So in our country, the constitution of our country is a supreme authority. If you are bypassing the constitution of India, then it will be a void ab initio. The Article 265 of our constitution will provide that no tax will be levied or collected except by authority of a law. So there must be a law for the purpose of levy of tax. So as per Article 265, no tax shall be levied or collected except by authority of law. If the government want to levy certain tax, then it must have to levy such tax via introduction of law. Next one is the Article 245. So the Article 245 says the Parliament may make the law for whole the country of India, and the legislator of a state may make the law for any part of state or a whole part of such state. So Parliament has the power to make law for whole India or any part of India, and the state legislator has the power to make law for whole state or any part of the state. So this is the Article 245. Now next one is the Article 246. Under Article 246, the seventh schedule is given. It contains three lists. List number 1 is the union list, list number 2 is the state list, and list number 3 is the concurrent list. So list number 1 is nothing but it contains the matter on which the Parliament has a right to make the law. So Parliament has a right to make the law on the list which are contained in the union list. The state legislator has power to make law on the matter that is contained in a list 2, and in a concurrent list the both have a power to make the law. Now for the purpose of introduction of a GST, the Constitutional Amendment Act has been passed in 2016. Now why this Constitutional Amendment Act is required? Because we have adopted the dual GST model under which central government and the state government both will levy GST on a supply of goods as well as the services. So the state does not have a power to levy the tax on a service. Further, the central does not have a power to levy the tax on a sale of goods. So for the purpose of making the enabling provision by a constitutional amendment, for the purpose of levying tax by central and state both parallelly by introduction of a GST, there will be a need for the purpose of constitutional amendment. So for the purpose of introduction of a GST, the Constitutional Amendment Act 2016 has been passed. Now the new Article 246A has been introduced, that is the power to make law with respect to goods and service tax. So under this new Article 246A, it starts with the wording that notwithstanding anything contained in Article 246 and 256, this means it is superior over Article 246 and 254. So as per Article 246A, the legislator of every state has a power to make law with respect to the goods and service tax imposed by union or by such state. Next one is the parliament has an exclusive power to make law with respect to the goods and service tax where the supply of such goods have been made in the course of an interstate trade or a commerce. So if there is an interstate transaction, then parliament have a power to make the law. However, it will be if it will be the intrastate, not an interstate, then a parliament as well as the legislature of a state both have a power to make the law. Next one is the Article 269A, levy and collection of a GST on an interstate supply. So Article 269A stipulates that GST on a supply in the course of an interstate shall be levied by government of India, and such tax shall be apportioned between the union and state as on the recommendation of the GST Council. So whatever the tax has been levied by central government on an interstate supply will be apportioned between central as well as the state on the recommendation of GST Council. Next one is what is the meaning of a goods and service tax. So Article 366 defines the goods and service tax means the tax on the supply of goods or services or both, except tax on the supply of alcoholic liquor for human consumption. So on alcoholic liquor for human consumption, GST has not been levied. States have power to import tax on alcoholic liquor for human consumption. So what is the meaning of a GST? As per Article 366, the goods and service tax means tax on a supply of goods or services or both, except supply of alcoholic liquor for human consumption. Now we will discuss what is GST Council. Under Article 279A, the President has the power to constitute the GST Council. So as per the power, the President has constituted the GST Council on 15 September 2016. Who will be the chairman of the GST Council? So the Union Finance Minister of India will be the chairman of the GST Council. Who are the members of the GST Council? The Minister of Finance or Taxation of every state or any other minister nominated by such state or a union territory are the member of such council. Further, the Union Minister of a state in charge of revenue or finance is also the member of the GST Council. What is the working of a GST Council? So GST Council will recommend to the government on the issue like a tax rate, exemption, threshold limit for the purpose of exemption. Further, it will also consider the various notification, dispute resolution, and extra. The GST Council has recommended the 11 special category states like Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, Jammu Kashmir, Manipur, Meghalaya, Mizoram, Nagaland, Sikkim, Tripura, Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand. For these 11 special category states, there is a special threshold limit which is separate from other part of India. How the decision of a GST Council will be taken? So in a GST meeting, the GST Council meeting, all the decisions are taken by the majority of a not less than 3/4. So there will be a 75% majority is required. So what is the voting ratio? The power of vote of a central government is a 1/3. So central government has a 1/3 power, and all the states collectively have the power of their vote 2/3. So after all the voting is done, if a 75% voting is done in a favor, then such decision will be approved. Otherwise, such decision will not be taken. So every decision of a GST Council will be taken with a majority of a not less than 3/4 of a weighted average vote of the members who are present for a voting. So what of a central government has a weightage of a 1/3 and what of a state government has a weightage of a 2/3. So this was the discussion for the chapter number 1, that is a basic introduction of a GST. This is not much more important for the examination. However, the knowledge of this chapter is required for the purpose of understanding the GST. Thank you.